Now this here is an e-scooter that's a mid-size one, which I think is one of the best that you can currently get, at least of the scooters that I've been testing out. It's from Splach. It's called the Mukuta. The Mukuta has twin motors, 600 watts, but they peak at just over 1100 watts each, allowing this e-scooter to get up to speeds of 45 kilometers per hour. That's about 29 miles per hour, with a top range of 62 kilometers, which is 39 miles, which is pretty impressive. Now, right here, it's got a removable battery. So it's the first e-scooter that I've covered with a removable battery, and that's 15.6 amp hours. The good thing about it is it also doubles as a power bank for your devices. They sell an optional extra that you can plug into the power port here, and you get Type-C with power delivery up to 100 watts. And Type A ports up to 36 watts. So it has full suspension, which is also adjustable. It's got 120 millimeter disc brakes. And I think this is a fantastic scooter if you're after something that's got power, speed, and it's not too bulky or too heavy. This is probably the model that you should go for, and you'll see why in this review of the Splach Mukuta. For tires, we have solid rubber tires, 8 inches or 20 centimeters, and they are 2.5 inches wide. And their tread pattern, it's definitely a road tire here. It's not off-road, otherwise it would be knobbly. Now, the good part about these tires is they are very smooth, and we've got great rolling resistance. They aren't noisy either. Braking performance is great. You'll see later on with my emergency braking test just how well it does perform, and it's thanks to these 120 millimeter ventilated disc brakes here. So it's mechanical cable pull here, but we also have electronic braking too. So it's a 2-in-1 system. So it's the motor giving us a little bit of resistance there with the electric braking, and then of course the mechanical disc brakes. My favorite feature by far of this e-scooter is its suspension. So we've got dual suspension, it is adjustable, and they do include a little toolkit here. So that gives you a valve extension, which you don't actually need because these aren't air-filled tires. I don't know why it's there, but we've got it. And the Allen key we need to adjust the compression. So you can reduce it or increase it. You simply just need to insert the tool there and just turn it around, and it tells you which direction to loosen off the compression or to make it a little bit firmer, that suspension, which is a great option to have. And you can see the difference. So this is on the softer setting. You can see how bouncy and soft the suspension is. It's going to soak up a lot of bumps. And now I have tightened it right up, so the suspension is quite a bit firmer now. Now, it surpasses other models when it comes to its lighting. It's got side LED strips. It's got lights at the rear. When you brake, you see those, and even side indicators. And there's an LED strip at the front on the handlebar. And then, of course, a projector lamp too as well. So your typical headlight, which is very bright, you can see that now. And the whole scooter is just so safe because of this when you're riding around at night. You are well lit, you're very visible. People can see your indicators too at nighttime. During the day, they are difficult to see, but during night, you stand out, and that really adds to your safety, which I love. I love this aspect of the scooter, and I think all scooters should have lighting like this. For obvious reasons, the Mukuta's battery is locked into place. So to unlock it, I'll show you how to do that. First, you need to press and hold the power button for a few seconds so it turns on. It then asks for the NFC card, so you just put that up to the screen. The range is really good of it too, by the way. It unlocks. Then you hold the mode button here, the M button. Hold that down. You want to go into the P01 menu, press up here till it says 1. The little lock logo does disappear on the screen, and then you need to just power it off. And now you'll hear the actuator, a little unlocking sound from the battery bank, from the pack. It's now unlocked and you can remove it. So this deck does have plenty of space, and it has a little bit of rubber here for grip. We've got 2 charging points. Now, if you just use the single charger, which is included, you're looking about an 8-hour charge time for the 15.6 amp hour battery. But if you do double up, get another charger, then you'll bring that time down to about 4 hours. So it's great to have this option. Now, removing the battery, now that it has been unlocked, as I just showed you before, you simply need to pull up on this very sturdy metal handle here, and this is where we have our power port, but more on that soon. So you just need to give it a pull up, and then it comes out. Now it sits in there really nice and snug, and it doesn't rattle about, which is great. Now this battery has the option to be charged outside of the scooter. You can see we have a charging port right here. Now just flip it around and note that I did something wrong here, that I should have wiped this down first before I removed it. because now my hands are covered in dirt. That is a downside to this design because you're stepping on this battery bank. So that's why I say just get yourself a microfiber cloth, wipe it down first before you remove it, and don't do what I did. Fitting it back into the scooter is relatively easy. You need to slot in this side first because there are two little tiny stays there that are going to hold it into place. It is quite snug. Once it's in place, you just push it down, and then the next time you power on the scooter and unlock it, it will then lock that battery into place. Now, to charge your devices and use it like a battery bank, you are going to have to buy yourself this. So this is an optional extra, and this plugs into the battery there. And you'll see we've got power delivery, 100 watts max, Type C, and then two Type A ports, which are supporting Quick Charge 3.0. They're 36 watts maximum. So we have the little port here, which is covered with a little dust cap. So you need to remove that. And this is what it looks like when it is plugged and screwed into place. So I've just plugged in my phone now, and that is charging. And using now the 100 watts Type C output, I'm now charging up this portable battery bank. The Mukuta's handlebars are foldable too. So they have this screw-in design, and I'm all for this because other designs, we have the little ring that goes over it with the spring in it, and they tend to move about and they don't give me a lot of confidence. I feel a little unsafe, but not this. You screw that in tight, and really that's not going anywhere. There is no movement, there's no play in that. Now, loosening it off, you then pull on the ring and you can drop down that handlebar to aid in storage. So it's good that they both collapse down. The locking mechanism for the handlebar is super secure. I like the way it locks into place, and they're using a very strong steel hook there that's latched into place to keep the handlebar where it is. Everything is torqued up correctly. There's no play in it. There's no movement. And it is a little firm and difficult to push down the latch, but I like that. I wouldn't want this to be loose at all. So it's got a little security here at the top. You do need to push that forward and then pull down on this and then release the little hook, and then the handlebar can drop down.
And when you have it folded up, it is then easy enough to lift it up. It's about 30 kilos in weight, and then place it in the trunk or boot of a car, for example.
Here's our display. So I'm recording in direct sunlight here, and it's a little difficult to see. Now, it won't shimmer like this when you see it in person. It's just my camera shutter settings. Unfortunately, that's what it's like. But now at nighttime, you can see exactly how clear this display is. And you've got the power level there, your speed, the unlock or lock logo, that's just telling us the battery is locked into place, the battery gauge, and the different power levels. We have park, which is off, eco, sport, and race mode. So it is a very clear display. It also does show us the voltage, our trip, and odometer. Powering it on and off, you use the NFC key. They do include 3 of these in the box. All you need to do is just hold it up to the screen after pressing the power button, and it will unlock. So the controls on the left here, we've got our dual motor mode, so you can disable that. And I highly recommend if you're riding around in the wet or in slippery conditions or loose gravel or something, loose stones, just use the rear wheel. The front wheel, you're asking for trouble, especially in the wet, because it can slip. We've got our indicator here, left and right. Our horn, which is quite loud. On the right side then, the power levels up and down, our M button and power on, and it's using a twist style throttle. Splach has not used lock grips for our handlebars, but they do not spin around at all. They're not loose, these rubber grips they've gone with. Now the brake levers, they feel okay. It's cable pull, so it doesn't have the feeling that hydraulic has, unfortunately. And there is an adjustment here when those cables start to stretch a little bit. You can just go along and adjust that, or when the pads start to wear down a little bit, at least we have the adjustment. Very hot and busy day here in the marina of Denia, but perfect for testing out our Splach Mukuta here. So I like this scooter a lot. You've probably gathered already. Suspension is just fantastic on it, and the fact that I don't need to worry about getting pinch flats or punches or flats or anything like that. So I have plenty of room on the deck here for my feet, no issues. And acceleration, well, you do not need to kick off first. You can just start to accelerate, and I need to be in one of the power modes here. So you've got the 3 power modes, Eco, Sport, and Turbo. Obviously Turbo is the fastest. And acceleration is very good, very smooth. I've got it in the dual motor mode. Now, if you're going to be riding in conditions where there is loose stones, gravel, or in the wet, you want to disable that front motor. You want to just be riding in the rear wheel drive mode. Trust me on that one, because the front wheel will slip. There's a lot of power, and if it's wet, slippery conditions, that's a recipe for disaster, and you will definitely not be happy coming off it. But it's good we've got that option. It's not a permanent two-wheel drive. And in the rear wheel mode, of course, is where you're going to get the best range battery life possible too out of it. Now that suspension, let me talk a little bit about it, because wow, is it good. It's like you're floating along. And I love the fact it's adjustable, because we're all different weights. Heavier people want to stiffen it up a little bit. Lighter people probably want to loosen it off. And what I've done is I have stiffened up the rear a little bit more than the front, because I find that just works best for me. So you're basically just floating along, and you can bounce and bob up and down on it. And I'll get to a point now where there is a little bit of a speed bump here, and I'll just show you what it's like. It's effortless when it goes over it. So here is that speed bump, and I'm only doing about 25 kilometers per hour, and I'm going to be a little bit lazy here and not lift up the front wheel. Just go straight at it, full speed. Well, not quite full speed, because that's 45 kilometers per hour. And it just soaked it up. Look at that. It just, not a problem for it. Fantastic suspension. What about the top speed? Well, it is very good for a medium-sized scooter. It's 26 miles per hour, or around 45 kilometers per hour. Now I've got it in the turbo mode, and I have it in the dual motor mode, of course. So for this test, I'm in a car park. I'm not going to be doing this on the road, because here I'm limited to 25 kilometers per hour only. So it's the only time I've got the speed completely unlocked. So just to confirm that I am in the race mode here, and let's accelerate. All right, that acceleration, that's very good. That's so good. Spinning the front wheel a little bit, and I'm already at 31, 35, 40, 41, 42, and running out of space here, 43 kilometers per hour. But I can see that if I had a little bit more, maybe another 200 meters or so, I should be able to get up to that 45 kilometer per hour maximum speed there. So lots of power, and definitely this thing's no slouch, especially with the dual motors. The acceleration is so good. It's so much fun. Another thing about these motors, doing 25 kilometers per hour, they're very quiet. Even the acceleration, you just hear a little bit with the acceleration, but later on, they're not whiny motors. They don't make that high-pitched noise. So I do have a little bit of rough stuff ahead. They're only 8-inch wheels, but because of the suspension, I'm not worried about this at all. Handling that just fine. And no, the front wheel did not spin. I'm in the dual motor mode here. Here we are now at my climb test spot. So I'm putting it into the race mode, and it is the dual motors that are on. This is crazy. Look at this. It's just rocketing up this. Not a problem at all. So the 600 watt motors times 2 can peak at just over 1100 watts. I believe it's 1104, and handle climbs of 40 degrees. This is about 20, 25. And not a problem at all. This is so good, the climbing performance, especially compared to the last scooter that I reviewed, which was not very good, and that was peak 1000 watts, single motor. Braking test now. So I do have both mechanical 120 millimeter disc brakes and then the electronic braking. So I'm about 30 from this white post, full on braking. Okay, I did my own style ABS. I did lock up the rear a tiny bit, and I made it well before this column right here, so that is excellent. And oh, sorry doggies, the dogs are not happy with me at all. They don't like, I think, the high-pitched noises from the motors. So excellent braking performance, very powerful braking performance too, but remember, in the wet, be very careful braking heavily on that front brake. What about our range then? So they say you can get up to about 62 kilometers or 39 miles. Now in my testing, and this is me using full throttle most of the time, but bear this in mind, limited to 25 kilometers per hour, I've passed the halfway mark with the battery, and I see remaining that I can probably get another 25 kilometers, and I've already covered 23. So it's looking like I will get about 40 to 45 kilometers out of the 15.6 amp hour battery, which isn't bad, a little bit less than expected, but I guess that was probably because I was using the dual motors more, and if you use just the single motor, then of course that range is going to be quite a bit better. Now overall, I think this is a fantastic scooter. If you're after that adjustable full suspension, you've got a very good sweepback style handlebars that do collapse, but I love the way that they screw in like this. It's very secure. Everything on this particular e-scooter is, I think, really top notch. And I love the way that everything seems to be torqued up correctly. Nothing's loose, nothing's rattling, which a lot of the products that I do sometimes receive, I need to go through, and I always do this in the beginning, do my inspection of them and go and check that everything, every single bolt, every Allen key is all torqued up correctly. But it's like that out of the box, which is what it should be like. Now, the hard tires, 8 inches, 2.5 inches wide, they are giving me a lot of peace of mind because I know that I'm not going to get a flat tire, which always seems to happen, especially with our roads around here where I'm filming here in Denia on the Mediterranean coast of Spain. There's always nails and all screws and whatnot that you'd pick up and you get punctures straight away. You're not going to have that problem with this model here. And the way the full suspension is, it almost feels like it's got pneumatic air-filled tires, but it doesn't. Now, my only real complaint of this scooter is that I wish the tires were a little bit bigger. I think 8 inches is a little on the small side. I would have liked to have seen 10. I think 10 or 11 would have been ideal if they had them, but I can see that maybe they're trying to keep the weight down, or it's just the motors and the style that they wanted to go for. But it really is a fantastic unit here. And I love the fact that you've got that option if you needed to charge up, say, a drone or something, and you took your scooter with you, where you could use it as a power bank, plug it in, charge your drone, charge your devices, charge your tablet maybe that you're using for your live preview of that drone. So it just gives you a lot of options. The way it's laid out here too, the controls, I love the fact that you can easily just swap between those power modes. You can unlock that battery quite easily, as I showed you there. It's just got so many things going for it, and the fantastic lighting. I'm big on safety when it comes to scooters because, let's face it, they are pretty hard to see, especially at night. And you see people just riding around with those Xiaomi scooters, at least here in Europe, and just have a single little tiny red light at the back, and that's it. But this thing, you're like a riding light show, which is fantastic. People are going to see you with just so many lights everywhere. Fantastic headlight too. So all up, this gets a huge thumbs up from me. So thank you so much for watching my review here of the Splach Mukuta.